What's up, and War Eagle War Report family? It's your guy Ike Jones, and we're back with another morning drop today. We are talking about Auburn landing transfer quarterback, and my mic is not working for some reason. Mm. For some reason, my mic wasn't working, but we're back in here. We're in effect. What's up, y'all? So, morning drop. You got Ike Jones in here with another morning drop on a rare Thursday today, talking about the transfer quarterback, Sam Jackson. Let's get straight into it. Y'all know how we do, War Report style. Let's drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
Morning drop. It is a Thursday and a rare Thursday drop for you guys. I don't know what would just happen with my microphone, but we are in here, morning drop style, and today we're talking about Sam Jackson the fifth. Before we get into all of the questions and comments for today, y'all need to be doing the necessary. Go ahead and share the video out there on social media. I appreciate all the shares that happen on a consistent basis, getting the word out there. Give us a thumbs up on the video right there below. There's a little thumbs up thing. Give me the thumbs up right there. Like the video before you get out of here. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're going to be listening on podcast, make sure you give us that 5-star review and share the content out there. But today we're talking about Sam Jackson the fifth, who is transferring to Auburn. I didn't listen. There's no part of me that would have seen this coming. For those of you who don't know, Samuel Jackson the fifth, is the transfer play quarterback last year. If you watched the Cal game, you're an Auburn fan. Of course, you watched the Cal game. He's the guy that came in and played quarterback last year for Cal. Dynamic athlete. He is transferring from Cal, 5'11", 170 pounds. Wide receiver is what they have him listed at as transferring over here, but played quarterback again. Came out of high school as a quarterback his senior year. Went to TCU as a quarterback, as a 3-star / 4-star prospect, depending upon which recruiting service that you look at, in 2021. Then transferred to Cal to play backup quarterback, then got the starting job and played, I think, like 5 games as the starting quarterback for Cal. And now he's transferring to Auburn as a wide receiver. I don't know. I have no idea what is happening with this move right here. It's interesting though. What I will say. It's very interesting that Coach Hugh Freeze and company decided to go after a guy that, in my opinion, this move to me cements in my mind the things that I've been saying for a while, which is that this is a move to help Payton Thorne cement himself as the starting quarterback. I've been saying for a while that I didn't feel like Auburn was going after a transfer portal quarterback. There was nothing that indicated that we were going after a quarterback in the portal. And this, to me, just kind of amplifies this. For those that don't know, Sam Jackson was a wide receiver initially in high school and was Payton Thorne's wide receiver. If you remember, they talked about this a bunch during the broadcast leading up to the game about how they were former teammates in high school. And he played, he sat behind Payton Thorne at the quarterback position, but played wide receiver in that system with him. This is another move, I think, to help Payton Thorne be more comfortable. And for me, cements a commitment by this staff to Payton Thorne as the starting quarterback for next season. So from a wide receiver perspective, he was dynamic, and he's still a dynamic athlete. You can see his athleticism on display, his speed on display when he was playing quarterback position. But he was a dynamic athlete in high school playing at the wide receiver position. So I think that this is another move that says we're riding with Payton Thorne this season. So, what does Sam Jackson bring to this team from a wide receiver perspective? I don't actually know the answer to that fully. I think, he definitely brings some speed and athleticism to the position. He's a smaller guy, though, 5'11, so he's going to fit in more as a slot receiver. So when you look at the slot receiver position right now, you have Jay Fair, you've got Caleb Burton, who's going to be playing, I think, a little more outside receiver than slot coming up this season. But you've got now Bryce Kane, who's going to be coming in there at the slot. And I can't remember the young man's name. The other guy from Central that is got the PWO offer is likely going to translate to be a slot receiver. But the slot receiver position room is now starting to fill out a little bit more. I don't know how often this means that we're going to be now going into some 11 personnel stuff so that we can rotate some of these slot receivers through. But it does make it more interesting to see kind of a difference, because here's the thing, like, this isn't like a preferred walk-on spot. This is a scholarship offer to another smaller receiver that's really more quick than he is. I mean, he's got speed, so he's got top end speed, but I think his quickness is really the thing that's going to be a separator for him at the wide receiver position. So he's more in the mold of what you lost, I should say. Oh, and let me not forget about Roberts. Why am I getting brain farts this morning? See, this is why I don't do Thursday drops, man, because some reason my brain ain't working. The receiver that we just got from Georgia State, let me not forget about him. But this is more in the mold of what you lost in a VAR, right? Like a slimmer, shorter, quick guy in the slot that's going to be able to give you some stuff like that with maybe some speed sweep and stuff. And I really don't know how they're going to use Robert Lewis. Thank you so much, chat. Y'all are my additional memory cells, because your boy don't be remembering nothing. But I really don't know how they plan on using him. Like, this is it's a curious thing. It does, we talked to Robbie Ashford when he decided to hit the transfer portal, and it was made clear that Robbie was going to be more of, the package guy. So maybe they want to continue to do those types of packages and bring in, he's not as big as Robbie, right? Like, Robbie's 6'3", 2 something, right? Like, he's not going to be able to necessarily be a wildcat short yardage guy, but he can come in some sub package stuff. So does this mean that Coach Hugh Freeze wants to do the sub package stuff still and be able to rotate? Are we going to see a rotational type of thing again where we're going to have wildcat stuff back into it? Are they going to have, I don't know. Again, this is me speculating. I haven't talked to anybody about kind of what the plan was. They had to sell him on some sort of plan, though, for him to transfer. I do think it's interesting, though. This is his second transfer, so he is taking advantage of really the same type of window or opening that Robbie Ashford took advantage of to be able to utilize his second transfer and play immediately. He still has 2 years of eligibility left, so going to be interesting to see how the next 2 years work out for this young man and what he's able to do with that in an Auburn uniform as a receiver. So again, that slot room, because he doesn't translate to an outside receiver, but that slot room is starting to fill up now. I don't expect, if there's anybody else that was out there that is sub 6 foot that's out there in the transfer portal, you might as well cross them off the list. I don't think that Auburn's going to go after any more guys that have the 6 feet and below build, especially, a 170 guy, right? Like, he's going to be a guy that's going to be a slot guy. So there is going to be really, like, if there anybody else was out there that you're thinking about at wide receiver that fits that mold, cross them off the list. Auburn is likely not adding any more guys of that mold, because Coach Hugh Freeze has made it pretty clear that he likes the taller receivers with the bigger catch radius. And, we've got a couple of those in this freshman class. So if we sign any more receivers, which, I don't know how many more receivers we're looking to add. I have to go back and look and see kind of what the makeup is of those outside receiver positions. But you got Cam Brown, you got Cam Coleman, you got Perry Thompson, right? Like, you've got guys. I mean, and it's going to be interesting where Malcolm Simmons fits into this picture as well, because he's kind of in between the two, right? Like, he's not tall, And is he going to translate to an outside receiver in this system? Going to be very interesting to see now, based upon the composition of this wide receiver room, how guys are able to get snaps in here. So, very interesting move, in my opinion, with Coach Hugh Freeze and this staff. I can hear it now when we play Cal. They're going to mention this. We're going to mention this. Everybody's going to mention this transfer like 500. Like, that's going to be the biggest story the week of the Cal game is Sam Jackson, right? Like, he might not even play that much, but they will 100% mention it. They will 100% want to do interviews with him on the side during the week of the Cal game. It's going to get talked about. Like, if he enters the game at all, then you can just expect the talking points for the next 10 minutes in that game to be about that. If he makes a catch, any kind of play, then that's all they're going to talk about the entirety of the time. We do now have a little bit more insight into what's happening over there with that Cal team, though. So, I mean, it's good for that purpose, if nothing else. But I do think it is going to be very, very interesting to see how it pans out, how he factors into this entire race for snaps at the wide receiver position, because honestly don't know how it translates at all. Is he going to be allowed to, throw any passes, any, trick plays? I don't know, man. Like, this is very interesting. But again, he did play wide receiver in high school and was a dynamic receiver, catching passes from Payton Thorne in high school. So it's going to be interesting to see. And they seem to be good friends. Like, they talked about it during the week of the Cal game, how they still had a relationship, and they were good friends. So, again, I feel like this is a move that's going to help get Payton Thorne more comfortable in his starting role as the Auburn quarterback. I really think that this puts it to rest. Payton Thorne now, I can say this with even more confidence, that this is his job to lose. Like, he's going to have to go out there and stink it up in order for him to not be the quarterback, because they need more things that allow Payton Thorne to feel as if he is the guy for whatever reason. I don't know, I do wonder how much Payton Thorne, was, hey, what do you think about this move, et cetera, to bring him into the quarterback room, or into the wide receiver room. I keep calling him a quarterback. He will not be playing quarterback for Auburn. It was pretty clear from the announcement he's going to be playing wide receiver. Love to get Sam Jackson on the program and get to talking to him about this decision and the move and why he wants to go back to playing wide receiver. Because, I mean, and this is interesting. Like, where did he factor into the quarterback room at Cal? He was given some opportunities to go out there and play on the field for them last season, and did they just not make a commitment to him going forward? Like, I don't know what any of this says. The Cal fan base was very excited about him when he came on, and they were talking about how dynamic he was. A lot of Cal fans in our comment section were talking about Sam Jackson and how he was going to be the guy. So going to be very, very interesting to see how all of this plays out. I will be very intently watching this wide receiver room during spring practices to see who's kind of raising themselves to the top and what kind of dynamic this places. He's a very confident young man. If you remember him talking about the Auburn game pregame, it was more Jaden Ott that got the publicity, but Sam Jackson was right amongst those saying that he felt as if Cal had a chance to win that game. So again, going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. All right. I am going to stop talking here. I'm going to let you guys get in here and give your thoughts. I'd always love to hear from y'all. As always, the morning drop is brought to you by Rogue Shop. Make sure you head to rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT when you do. That gets you a little something off your purchase. Rogue Shop is America's #1 online dispensary. Has remedies for sleep aids, stress relief, pain relief, anxiety relief. All of those things can be had right there at the Rogue Shop. Make sure you head over there, rogueshop.com, using code REPORT. Let's get over here into the comment section and see what you guys are dropping this morning. Always bringing the fire in the comment section. Jay Finch will get us started off with a super chat that says, Hugh Freeze is slick, converted wide receiver. I mean, I don't even know what that means, right? Like, is it a way for him to be able to get a guy in here in the wide receiver room, but utilize somebody as a scout team quarterback a little bit, or as an additional quarterback in the spring to be able to run some stuff with. I listen, man, I don't know. I have no idea. If you're asking me to give you like a specific, and I see the logic of it because you could do this, and I don't have that for you. I don't even have like collegiate tape on him playing wide receiver for us to go look at. We can go try to find some high school tape, but it's likely just going to be a bunch of highlights from his junior year in high school. So he's 3 years removed from that. So a lot to sort out with this. Let's see. Reeves Uppercut says Robbie Ashford to Cal. How weird would that be? I don't know that Robbie's gotten any interest from Cal, or if he's even interested in going back out west. The last thing I saw, I think the name that was most interesting to me that I saw on there was Tulane had expressed maybe some interest in Robbie. I think he's gotten an offer from them already, but he does have a couple of offers that are out there right now. So, but I don't know if Cal is on that list. Daniel Moultrie jumps in and says, Ike, you are 100% correct. They are definitely all in on Thorne for 2024, and then Walker White will be QB1 in 2025 with the Freeze 5 around him. I think there's a lot of people who assume Walker White's going to be the next guy. Coach Hugh Freeze had a lot of good things to say about Walker White. He's had good things to say about Holden Geriner, had not as much publicly said about Hank Brown. So I'm not really sure where Hank Brown factors into all of this, or whether or not he ever sees the field. So the quarterback position behind Payton Thorne is definitely going to be an interesting one to monitor as well. Sub0251 said, adding another QB without adding another QB. That's what it seems like. Reeves Uppercut comes back, says, I think we need a few veteran wide receivers now while the freshmen coming in get ready to play. I don't disagree with this. I mean, as far as veteran leadership in the wide receiver room, you've got Jay Vare, Camden Brown, both of them now upperclassmen who have been here at Auburn for a few years. Can definitely give them the landscape of what's going on in the room from last year going forward. Coy Moore's still on the team right now. I don't foresee him transferring, but he still is currently on the team, so he's available there. But outside of that, I mean, Caleb Burton now, I guess, would be a veteran in this room. Then you've got the transfer receiver who's come in, who's going to be a veteran presence that's available for you there, but not a veteran on this team. So, going to be interesting to see how he's able, I don't know what kind of personality he is, and as to whether or not he's going to be the type of leader that can just step in immediately, a la Elijah McAllister, how he was last year, came in immediately and was able to be a leader in that room. So not really sure where Robert Lewis factors into that, but definitely think that the next move for them as far as bringing in a wide receiver will likely be somebody who has limited eligibility, probably not a one-year guy like they did with Hooks or Mardner, maybe like a 2-year guy who has 1-year potential, but we'll see. Again, have to kind of really look at the makeup of that wide receiver room, and that's something that we will look at extensively next week. Been promising you guys, been teasing wide receiver content coming next week. I wanted to get past the bowl game before we got into that too much, but next week I got y'all. We're going to talk wide receiver a lot. Rick Cazenave says Jackson equals AU's Randall Cobb or Hines Ward. Okay, I mean, Hines Ward, probably not as much. I get it, what you're saying as far as like a guy who plays wide receiver who can come in and give you like the trick plays and throw the football occasionally. His makeup is more Randall Cobb than Hines Ward as far as his physical, presence. Cobb is definitely a playmaker. I think Sam Jackson is a playmaker, definitely a good athlete. So we will see how they intend to utilize him. If it's going to be a Cordell Stewart type / situation. I think that's where Coach Freeze saw Robbie Ashford factoring into this offense, is more of a slash player, not a definitive quarterback, but a guy who could come in and run some against, he had the sub package stuff that he was doing. So they could come in and do that in short yardage goal line, red zone situations, but then occasionally throw the football as well. And maybe that is where Sam Jackson's going to factor in, as well as maybe running some route stuff so they could have him on the field. Now, you guys know that I am very much a fan of guys who have multiple abilities. So if you have a Sam Jackson out there in the slot, you don't really know what the intent to do with him is. If he's going to come in on a speed sweep and they're going to hand the ball off to him, He can, then become a thrower of the football at some point in time when he's out there on the field with a double pass. That double pass that they tried to do to hold in that one time makes a lot more sense with a guy like Sam Jackson out there on the field. So maybe they want to keep that play in the playbook, but actually put somebody who's a threat to run the football if they catch it out there on the perimeter as well. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's interesting to say the least. Chris S. says it's also going to be tough to keep Bryce Cain's speed off the field post year one. Bryce Cain definitely has a burner on him. So it's going to be interesting again to see what the evolution of this wide receiver room is going to be. Sam Jackson, 2 years of eligibility left. You still got Jay Fair in this room who has the 2 years left as well. Now you have Bryce Cain, the true freshman. You've got the Malcolm Simmons types. There's a lot of guys that are going to be available to play in that slot receiver position that have a lot of speed. So this team definitely has upgraded our ability to, I won't say upgraded because VAR has speed on him too. Malcolm Johnson had speed on him too. I think that Sam Jackson is a little bit more of a natural athlete at the wide receiver position than some of these other guys. I think Malcolm was more of a track guy that has track speed. He didn't really get. I would have really liked to have seen Malcolm in like the return game to see what he would have been able to do in that. But anyway, and then maybe Sam Jackson could be a returner, right? Like maybe he's a guy that can impact your game. I don't know, man. There's just so many things that are unknown about what the intent behind this move was for him at the wide receiver position moving over. Torrey Dickerson jumps in. I said, I think it's the familiarity with PT, and we've lost so much in that room that we needed that body. PT has zero excuses moving forward. Listen, I have to agree that, and I've actually had this conversation with a couple of people, that this coaching staff has gone above and beyond to remove all of the excuses for why Payton Thorne cannot be successful. We've given a lot of attention to the offensive line in these last classes, which you should do anyway, right? That's not a Payton Thorne thing, but trying to upgrade the offensive line and get more experience and more bodies in there that are able to compete at an SEC level. That's been done over the last 2 seasons and will continue to do going forward. The excuses about whether or not they've got talent in the wide receiver room, eliminating those excuses. I think everybody at this point in time, without seeing any of those guys play, is very satisfied with the talent in the wide receiver room. Really, a lot of people were satisfied with the talent in the wide receiver room going into the season last year, and then when they saw him out there on the field, now all of a sudden they're no good. Like I didn't get the pivot that people started trying to make in regard to that. Again, we'll get into the wide receiver room extensively next week, so looking forward to having that content for you guys next week. Eliminating all the excuses. Every excuse that people had about why Payton Thorne couldn't be successful. Robbie Ashford no longer in that quarterback room. Now, that wasn't an Auburn decision. That was a Robbie Ashford decision, but no longer in that room, so you're not going to have the QB carousel that people said was the reason why Payton Thorne couldn't be successful. All of the he couldn't be successful because of he's going to have the full spring to be in here with these guys, learn the system. No excuses are available to Payton Thorne at all for him to not be successful this coming up year. He is firmly in the driver's seat. They have done all of the retrofitting to this offense to allow him to be successful. If he cannot be successful in this environment, then there's no reason at all other than Payton Thorne's not the guy. Now, do I think that Payton Thorne can do this? Sure. But it's up to Payton Thorne whether or not he will. It's up to him whether or not he will. So I'm looking forward to seeing him be successful because he has all of the stuff around him that should allow him to be successful. They've given him the tools. Now they just need to make sure that they're calling the offense that makes sense for him and let him go out there and execute that offense effectively. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that. Let's see here. See some comments in here about Justin Rogers. I did see him accepting the invitation to the East-West Shrine game. And that is, unlike the Senior Bowl, one of those things he can decide he doesn't want to do that. So Justin Rogers not definitively gone yet, but we will definitely talk about that Justin Rogers situation if it materializes into him actually making the declaration for the NFL. So a lot more left to do and think about in regards to that Justin Rogers situation. One more from Daniel Moultrie before I get out of here. I think Dylan Cinda will end up being a major contributor on the O-line over the next 3 to 4 years. I do like the prospects of Dylan Cinda, and the fact that he's able to come in and be kind of a part of this system and work his way through. So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. Before we get out of here, though, just one more thing in regards to the Sam Jackson situation that I think is interesting with these athletes who are a la Sam Jackson, a la Robbie Ashford, now taking advantage of this second transfer that they have been awarded with this recent whatever this situation is happening right now with the transfer portal. I think it's going to be interesting to see how many other athletes decide to, and I said this when Robbie Ashford, if you go back and listen to when I talked about Robbie making his announcement, how many other athletes are going to make a decision that they want to hop into the transfer portal and try to get a second transfer. Because one thing is interesting, and what made me think about this was the Dylan Cinda comments. When you heard Coach Freeze talk about one of the reasons why he liked being able to get Dylan Cinda, he was the Northwestern guy, is that he had already used his free transfer, so you didn't have to worry about him hopping back in the portal again. With the developments around this, that's not the case anymore. Like, it's really become college free agency. And really, I mean, like, when you think about it, again, Sam Jackson, this is now his second trip to the transfer portal in as many seasons, right? Like, he had just gotten to Cal last year, and now he's coming to Auburn this year. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the landscape of college football has changed. And I think that's a very separate conversation from the one about Sam Jackson in particular. And I don't actually know if he prefers to be called Samuel Jackson. I'll call him Samuel Jackson by his whole name until I get the okay from him to call him Sam Jackson. I don't want to just be giving people short names, but Samuel Jackson in particular. But the landscape of college football, I think, has changed a lot. And I think that's a separate conversation that I want to have at some point in time. And look forward to hearing you guys' thoughts about how the transfer portal and NIL has revolutionized college football now as we get into another season where it's continued to morph and mutate. So looking forward to seeing how that goes. All right, let me get out of here. Appreciate you guys dropping in with me. Members, again, turn your notification bells on because your boy has got some film coming for y'all today. As always, we want to give a shout out to the show sponsor, Rogue Shop. Make sure you head over to rogueshop.com using code RAPPORT. Like the video before you get out of here. Subscribe to the channel. Again, we will be back at you guys with more great content. Another morning drop coming at y'all tomorrow. Until then, and as always, War Eagle.